I think it's time to open the books on questions that have remained in the dark, on the question of government investigations of UFOs. It's time to find out what the truth really is that's out there.
Both of us, both airplanes, see a disturbance in the water and a white 40-foot long tic-tac shaped object just hovering above the water, going forward, back, left, right. There's no rotor wash, there's no wings, nothing. And as I get within about a half mile of it, it rapidly accelerates to the south in about 2 seconds and disappears.
So bottom line, what do you think this was?
I believe, as do the other folks that were on the flight that when we visually saw it, that it was something not from this world.
What do you think the government knows about UFOs that they're not telling us?
UFOs are as real as the airplanes flying overhead. That gave me the dubious distinction of being the first person of cabinet rank in the G8 group of countries to say so unequivocally.
Former Nevada Senator Harry Reid is calling for former congressional hearings probing the enduring mystery of UFOs.
Now, in 2007, the longtime leader of Senate Democrats quietly sponsored a secret Pentagon study of UFOs and related mysteries.
Now, in his first on-camera interview in more than a year, Reid says both Congress and the Pentagon should take a fresh look at the topic, and he intends to help make it happen.
What I have learned is you cannot just hide your head and say it does. These things aren't happening. We have military installations where hundreds and hundreds of people who are there see these things.
There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA. My gosh. They're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots.
I have frequently been asked by a person of my background, a former chief of the defense staff, a former chairman of the NATO military committee, why I think there is a cover-up. What I'd like to say is that there is a serious possibility that we are being visited and have been visited for many years. There are objects in our atmosphere which are technically miles in advance of anything that we can deploy. This should be the subject of rigorous scientific investigation.
I will tell you unequivocally that through the observation, scientific methodologies that were applied to look at this phenomena, that these aircraft, we'll call them aircraft, are displaying characteristics that are not currently within the U.S. inventory nor in any foreign inventory that we are aware of. There is very compelling evidence that we may not be alone.
There's just so much evidence. If anybody will take the time off to do a little bit of research and study. But people just are, you know, some people are interested and will take the time, and the others just say, oh, you know, it's just fantasy.
It's a worldwide phenomenon, not just here in the United States.
Reid and McCain were from different parties, but were close.
Sure, John knew what I was doing. I mean, he didn't hide the fact that he was interested also.
Former senator and one-time presidential candidate, the one and only Mike Gravel, who represented the great state of Alaska for 22 years. Senator, welcome. What a pleasure it is to have you on Viewpoint.
Thank you for having me. There's no question about it that the government of the United States is in total denial of this. And of course, we've had several smoking guns to show that this denial is ridiculous. Now, the cover-up started with what happened in Roswell.
All right, Walter, you were in Roswell at the time?
I sure was. I was the public relations officer for Roswell Army Airfield at that time. I received a phone call from Colonel Blanchard, who informed me that we had in our possession a flying saucer and that Major Marcel had gone out to the site, picked up materials, and brought them back to the base.
They wanted some comments from me, but I wasn't at liberty to do that. So all I could do is keep my mouth shut. And General Ramey is the one who discussed or told the newspapers it was nothing more than a weather observation balloon. Of course, which we both knew differently. It was not anything from this earth that I'm quite sure of.
The nature of the military in this country and the nature of those in power, the leaders, is they have a perception totally towards secrecy and to keep things covered up. And that's very sad, because if we're to be an operating democracy, the people have to know what's going on. And since this thing is of civilized, planetary import, the people of the world should know what's going on.
We ought to do it really because it's right. We ought to do it because the American people, quite frankly, can handle the truth. And we ought to do it because it's the law.
What do you think the government knows about UFOs that they're not telling us?
In my association with Project Blue Book, I know very well that it was not a scientific project. I also know that they never would notify the media when an interesting case came up. They did everything they could to keep it down. So they definitely withheld information.
So there are these cases in which documents haven't been made available to the American public. The American public, as Bonnie noted, is quite skeptical about the fact that the government won't make them available for public inspection. These are records that are more than 25 years old. They ought to be declassified, they ought to be released, and we ought to be able to see for ourselves what's included in those documents.
I did have many of the old-timers in the military and in the intelligence community wanting to get it off their chest before they passed away. And so my ideas became fairly well solidified. And the fact we've been visited. President Truman at that time convened a very high-level committee to examine this alien or UFO phenomenon. They did come to the conclusion that it was alien, and the military rightly came to the conclusion, if they're hostile, there's nothing we can do about it. Therefore, their choice was to deny it and to hush it up and create the National Security Act of 1947, which validated that deception, and we've been living with that now for 50 years.
It's a global issue, and we should have the United Nations, the General Assembly, form an agency and have a global conference of scientists that would focus on the issues involved.
Maybe there are other studies or programs that might shed light on this mystery?
Other programs that have been done and information they have, including different pieces of evidence.
It's important that we look at our civilization, our place in history, use our tools of science for greater understanding, to promote the greater good, and that's what it's all about.